What's up, guys? Austin from Training Tall, back with episode 4 of the Push Pace podcast. A podcast where essentially you and I together, we set off on a quest to explore all aspects of life and discover what it truly means to push ourselves towards a better and happier us. And for episode 4 today, we're going to get on a very, very important topic. And this topic is going to deal with essentially how we deal with injuries when it comes to our fitness journey, and also sort of a subtopic of, how do we get back into the swing of things after we've maybe fallen off of our routine for a while. So we're going to take a deep dive into understanding our injuries and learning on what we can do to push ourselves forward to get ourselves back on track towards our fitness goals, highlighting a few different important concepts to keep in mind. And I think going into this, the first thing to sort of think about is, at some point, considering that our lives are long for the most part, and if you're making fitness a very regular part of your life routine, at some point or another, whether it's minor, moderate, or severe, you're probably going to encounter some sort of injury, some sort of, whether that is a strain to a muscle or, hopefully not something crazy like cracking ribs or, whatever it might be. Typically, it's things like pulled muscles and, lower back pain and knee issues, things like that, ankle issues. But whatever it might be, everyone at some point experiences some sort of exercise-related injury if you're in the exercise game for long enough. And when we get injured, even when it's the most minor injury ever, the emotions that accompany that injury and that accompany the journey, sort of trying to get back to where we were pre-injury, become very, very deep and powerful emotions. And I'd like to open up just by talking a little bit about my own personal experience with chronic injury. It was about 2 years ago where I developed serious tendinitis in my elbow. I had what's called golfer's elbow. The more common elbow tendinitis is tennis elbow, and that is essentially the inflammation of your wrist extensor muscles. So if you think of like holding your hand out with your palm facing down, trying to lift your fingers up, those are your wrist extender muscles. I was having issues with the wrist flexor muscle. So that's if you flip your palm to the sky, so like you're asking for an offering, and then flicking your wrist towards your face or your fingers towards your face. It's that muscle group, and you can actually feel it with your hand. You can feel the inside of your elbow. Those muscles work as you move your wrist towards you. And I had severe inflammation of those muscles. I definitely damaged them from essentially jumping into weightlifting, and a lot of weightlifting, very quickly after finishing 4 years of collegiate rowing that had only very small bouts of weightlifting involved at all. Essentially, I'd overworked my wrist flexor muscles without taking proper care of them, and eventually that led to some micro trauma in the tendons themselves. And anyone who's had experience with elbow pain, whether that be tennis elbow or golfer's elbow, you know that it lasts a very, very long time. And for me, it lasted close to a year before I started to actually not feel pain on the inside of my elbow anytime I even picked up something. But the main issue was doing any sort of pulling exercise. So things like bicep curls or, rows, even things like the action of rowing on the rowing machine was excruciatingly painful. And the process to recovery was a very, very slow process. And it took a lot of, the recovery process made you really think about what you've done and to be very mindful of, the steps that it takes to not let something like that happen again. And we're going to talk about that more as we go along. But I just want you to know that I've been there, and I talk with members all the time, talk with people all the time about injuries that are setting themselves back. And I always say, there's just nothing worse than wanting to exercise, than wanting to do, to get yourself farther in your fitness journey, wanting to get up for your workout and get out, and then an injury is preventing you from doing so. That is so mentally crushing, but we can't let that be the downfall of everything. And that's what we really want to kind of dig into today, is understanding that yes, it's a crap situation. Obviously, it's not ideal when we get these injuries, but there are steps we can do, mindsets we can have to get ourselves back on track as quickly as possible. So Going into things, let's just talk about practical ways to move forward when you have injuries. Now, this is going to be totally different depending on what type of injury you're suffering from and the severity of your injuries as well. Some things are going to be more minor, might take a couple days up to a week to heal. Some things might take a couple weeks. Some things might be surgeries. You might be getting a knee replacement or a shoulder replacement and have multiple months of being sort of out of your regular routine. And so what do we do to get past that? So let's talk about it. First off, you must stay active. If there's one thing I hope you've gathered from these podcasts before, as far as when we talk about the importance of our fitness journey and what aspects of that actually matter, it's this idea of doing, it's of showing up, it's of moving, it's of giving your best. And I think for a lot of us, when we get hit with these really just soul-crushing injuries, we just stop. We just say, well, I guess it's just bed rest. And your doctor probably said, rest and take it easy, rest and take it easy. That seems to be the only prescription these days of how to make something better. And yes, if you've damaged a muscle tendon, then you do need to take that muscle easy. But that doesn't mean you can't do other things. And that's something that we need to really be aware of, because there's always something that you can do. We're thinking of, like, let's go back to sort of the elbow injury thing. If you've got inflammation in your tennis elbow, your golfer's elbow, whatever it might be, so you might be out of the game for any sort of pulling or pushing exercises, but you can do a whole shebang of plyometric exercises, cycling, running, these things that aren't going to involve those specific muscles working, that are still going to keep you active, and especially kind of think of the Orange Theory setting, still keep you within the Orange Theory workout, being able to do a majority of stuff. And it's important to remember that whether you're taking Orange Theory or any sort of fitness class, you have to communicate these injuries to your coaches or to your instructors, because I can say from my point of view, as a coach, I do my absolute best to try to really get to know everyone as much as possible. But in reality, there's just hundreds and hundreds of people that we're seeing every day, and it's hard to remember who has what injuries, etc. And so as someone who goes to fitness classes, if that is you, please be extra mindful to remind your coach, remind your instructor on a daily basis whenever you see them of what you've got going on. And that way the coach, the trainer, the instructor can formulate options for you. Because in the end, we want you to keep showing up. We want you to keep staying in the game, because that is most important. When we think about the longevity of our life in fitness, this injury, in the grand scheme of things, is just going to be a little blip on the radar. It's just going to be a little setback, but in the whole course of your whole life, it's going to be nothing. And so if we can keep ourselves in the habit of exercising, the habit of moving, that is going to be the most important thing to do. So whether you're dealing with an injury right now, or if an injury happens to you, please remember, you have to stay active in any way you can. And you know what? If that means all you can do is walk, then guess what? You get to walk every single day. You get to set time, your normal workout time that you would have set aside. You're going to set that time aside and go outside and walk, or go to your studio, your gym, and walk, and do what you need to do. Just keep your body moving. This is, again, a great opportunity for you to ask coaches, ask trainers, ask anyone who's involved in fitness. I mean, shoot me a DM. Send a direct message to me. Tell me what you got going on. I can give you some options for things that you can do in between. The more you can communicate this with others, the more options that will be available to you to keep you, allowed to have variety in your workouts and still keep you going to your workouts consistently. But when it comes to getting back into things, once things start to get better, you're starting to heal up, the biggest issue that I see with so many is that we tend to, once we start feeling a little bit better, we all of a sudden go back to pushing it really hard. And, our bodies, unfortunately, really do take time to heal, and we have to respect that. You need to respect your body and the time that it takes to heal. And just because things start to feel better a little bit doesn't mean that you're 100% and ready to go back at it. And I always try to help people understand that it's better to err on the side of doing the modification, to continue doing the modifications even as you start to feel a little bit better. Really give your body some time to heal up before you jump back into things. Let's take it as, let's say you're injured from running and all you can do is cycle. Once you start feeling like you can run again, just don't. Don't for a couple more weeks. A couple more weeks in the whole span of your life is not a lot of time, but it's really going to allow your body the time it needs to recover. Because if you kind of keep re-injuring it, every time you feel a little better, you try again, that injury is never going to go away. And that's the reality. And if you want to live with that injury for a really, really long time, then keep banging up that injury, I guess. But if you're serious about getting rid of the issues that you've got going on, you have to respect your body. You have to respect the time that it takes to recover. Again, it's different for depending on the type of injury. But my advice is always, once you start to feel a little bit better, don't push it. Just stay modified for a little bit longer. And once things really start to feel good, that's the time to start working things up slowly. Let's take it back to the elbow injuries. When I first started going back into being able to do pulling exercises like bicep curls and pull-ups and things like that, I did not just jump my 215-pound body up back on the pull-up bar to start doing pull-ups right away. Started doing bicep curls with 10-pound weights. That's could be heavy to you. It's all relative. I'm just saying, I grabbed a lighter pair for myself and just did it very, very slowly. Just got my muscles and my tendons and my bones and my body just used to doing those motions again, and just take things very, very slowly. Just wrap your head around the concept of time. Wrap your head around how much time you've got to get back from whatever setback you had from your injury. It's a ungodly amount of time when you really, really, really think about it. Decades upon decades. But if you keep re-injuring yourself, you keep pushing things too fast, it's not going to be a good time. It just won't. So know that you will get better eventually. You will. Keep that in mind. Like when you get sad, thinking about how crushing this injury is, that you want to be doing your best you can, just know that if you're taking proper care of your body and you're giving it the rest that it needs, there's something amazingly just miraculous about the human body. It is a self-healing machine. Can you believe that? It's unbelievable. Your body heals itself, whether that's just a scratch on your arm or inflammation in your joints. There's other things that we can do as well to kind of help promote the healing process and speed it up a little bit. That's why I advocate for a whole foods plant-based diet, which is extremely anti-inflammatory, full of antioxidants, etc. Getting lots of sleep, 6 to 8 hours a day, and taking some time to do some stretches before and after workouts are great ways to help speed your body towards that recovery process. But just know eventually it will get better. So let's talk about preventing injuries. Let's talk about what you need to do to either prevent yourself from getting re-injured or injuring yourself in the first place. And this comes down to 3 main things. 3 really big key factors that I think will make a monumental difference in your ability to stay injury-free. And that is dynamic warm-up stretches before a workout, static stretches post-workout, and foam rolling before and optionally after workouts. So let's get into those. So dynamic stretching beforehand. As far as what the scientific evidence shows us, as far as the best way to get our body ready for a workout, it's to stretch in a dynamic way. And what that means is essentially having the muscles working, your body moving through a specific motion to warm up muscles. So let's say, for instance, let's take a static stretch, which is sort of the traditional sit and hold, which is great for post-workout, by the way. Let's take a sitting down and reaching for your toes stretch. That's going to stretch your hamstrings in a static way. That's a great thing to do after a workout. But before a workout, a way to dynamically warm up the hamstring muscle, instead of just sitting there and reaching for your toes, you want to think about doing a leg swing where you actually kick your leg up straight in front of you and then swing the leg behind you. Kick it up in front, swing it behind, kick it up in front, swing it behind. And doing this dynamic motion, not going crazy with it obviously, but essentially warming up your body and getting a stretch in at the same time. These are going to be your best bet for getting yourself ready for a workout. And you would be shocked at the difference that it makes, especially when it comes to your lower body. I think a lot of us sometimes forget how much wear and tear our lower body gets. I mean, your legs, your calves, your ankles, your knees, your thighs, all of that is working to hold your butt up, hold you up all day, move you around all day, every day. And if we're not taking the time to warm it up before really intense activity, or give it a break by stretching it out, lengthening out those muscles and relaxing those joints after a workout, eventually your body is going to give in. It just can't handle the amount of like work that you're putting on it. Just as a little tangent, before I forget, this is a really important concept, especially for beginners to exercise, because one of the most common new injuries when it comes to, let's say, the Orange Theory workout, or when you start running a lot, is a lot of people develop shin splints really, really early on, or just really big tightness in their calves, in their ankles. And what that tends to be is that your body's cardiovascular fitness, like essentially how good your body is at pumping your heart and working your lungs, that ability to do that grows really, really fast. Like if you're consistent with a couple running workouts a week, you're going to gain some very good cardiovascular strength very early on. And typically your muscles, they can't keep up with how good you're getting cardiovascularly, because as your aerobic fitness improves, you're able to go faster, right? And the faster we're doing things like running, the more wear and tear we're getting on those muscles and on those joints. And essentially they can't keep up in the initial stages. They can't keep up with how fast you're gaining that cardio fitness. So doing these things are going to be extra important. So these dynamic stretches, I've got a few of them that I've outlined on my Instagram page, on my YouTube page, and I plan to come out with more in my future exercise programs that I'm going to be releasing next in the year or later in the year. But you can also look up dynamic warm-up stretches. Do a quick Google search and you'll see some great dynamic warm-up stretches to get your body loose and limber. But especially for the lower legs, it is one of the best things you can do before a workout. Get those calves stretched out, especially. Those calves are overworked and underappreciated, and they need that dynamic calf walk, dynamic warm-up stretch. Now, when it comes to static stretching, that is sort of that traditional sit and hold stretches. And this is great to do after a workout, after your body's super warm, super sweaty. You know, the blood's all in the muscles because you've been working it so hard for the last half hour, 90 minutes, however long you were going for. Taking some time to hold these static stretches. And what's nice is a lot of these leg stretches especially can be done on the ground without actual like needed use of like your hands. For instance, like the seated quadricep stretch where you're sitting down, you grab your foot and you just bring it behind you. So like your knees bent and you're feeling the stretch across your thighs. That's one of my favorite stretches ever. Why? Because you can literally just pull out your phone and start scrolling, which you're gonna do anyway, and now you're stretching out your thighs, you're relieving tension off of your knees all at the same time. It's great. You can do the same thing with the hamstring stretch. Just put your leg up on a bench or a chair and lean over it and use your hands to scroll on your phone. You know, you're feeding two birds with one scone by doing so. These static stretches, it's so easy to neglect them because you finish your workout and you're like, okay, I'm done. I'm gonna go home. But by taking just a couple minutes, like 3 to 5 minutes of just sitting, holding a few of these static stretches for your upper and for your lower body, it just makes a world of difference. Now, the last component, the foam rolling component. Foam rolling is still, I think, a very, very underappreciated tool to help you warm up and cool down from your workouts. I would say foam rolling is the absolute best for warming up. It's still great for cool down, but getting the blood flowing to your muscles through foam rolling is amazing feeling. And the amount of like get you ready for the workout-ness that it gives you is pretty unbelievable, especially if you've never done it before. I'm highly recommend using the foam roller on your lower body, really taking some time to slowly steamroll those calves and ankles and flipping over, going onto your thighs, maybe getting a little butt roll as well so you can rub out your booty cheeks. There's a few different ways that you can do these types of foam rolls. And again, you can just do a little Google search or you can check out my YouTube videos. I have a couple YouTube videos covering the foam rolling as well. Remember, guys, you can always find my YouTube stuff at Training Tall on YouTube. That's just sort of where I'm marked everywhere, whether it's LinkedIn or YouTube or Instagram. You can find all of my stuff on those platforms. So if you're not on all of them, check it out to get the breadth of information that I've put out there and a lot of good stuff to come as well. But if you could take some time on the foam roller to roll out those calves and ankles especially and the tops of your thighs before a workout, taking maybe 60 seconds each spot, each leg, it just makes a world of difference. And you can't knock it till you try it. But especially for the beginners out there that are serious about their fitness and want their bodies to be able to handle the cardiovascular improvements that happen so early on, these techniques are going to be essential. And if you want me to go more into detail about these techniques in video format, please leave me feedback and let me know, because I'm happy to do that for you guys. So with those 3 techniques in mind, I've said it. It's your duty to do it now. And that's only if you're going to be serious. And I know you want to be serious. I know you want to take your fitness journey as far as you can while staying injury-free. Well, dang it, you've got to do it. You have to stretch beforehand. You have to learn the discipline to sit your butt down after a hard workout and do some static stretching after. Take some time on a foam roller. You can buy a cheap $8 DWV pipe from Home Depot as a foam roller, and then you can chop it up into a little bit and take it with you right outside your studio before you go in for the workout. You got to just sort of figure it out, but in my opinion, it has to be done before workouts. And from an Orange Theory coach standpoint, I see a lot of people just kind of sitting, hanging out in the lobby. And I know some lobby spaces aren't that big, but I know that you walked into the lobby from an outside world of some sort of big space. So find some space and take some dynamic warm-up stretching, some foam rolling into action before your workouts, and it is going to do amazing things to help you prevent these injuries. And if you've had them in the past, you know how bad these injuries are. I know you don't want those injuries to happen again. As far as injury talks go, that pretty much covers the main aspects of injuries, other than the fact that I want to briefly talk about kind of when you find yourself in a rut. Because a lot of us deal with these injuries and we fall off the wagon and we just, all of a sudden, we go months and months without going to our workouts, doing our workouts. And it might not even been because of an injury. You might have moved to a new town. You might have just had a child. You might have just gone through a huge divorce or something, like some very, very big life changes. It doesn't just have to be injury related. These big life events can put you off of your workouts for a while. And what do you do to get yourself back in? I was reading a comment the other day, and it said, "Austin, give me motivation to get back into it." And I just didn't know how to quite respond to it, because when it comes to the motivation to get back in it, all you have to do is show up. That's all you have to do to get back in it. Like, how do I get back into it? You hop in your car, you turn on the ignition, you drive to your studio, you get out of your car and you walk in. And then you do your best for an hour if you're doing an Orange Theory workout, or if you're going to the gym to do weightlifting, or you're going to a cycling class, or whatever, or you're doing a rowing workout. Whatever it is you're doing, you got to show up. And you got to give your best. And your best is going to be crap when you first start after being gone for a while, because the human body is the master of adaptation. And if you sit on your butt and do nothing, your body is going to adapt to sitting on your butt and doing nothing. But the magic of that is, as quickly as our body sort of gets out of the rhythm of things, our body can adapt very fast to getting back into the habit of exercise. And when you force your body to become an active participant in exercise multiple days a week, then your body gets in the habit of being a participant in exercise multiple days a week, and you get all the great benefits that I know you guys love and enjoy from exercise, that we all love from exercise. You can't be upset of not being where you were when you first start getting back into things. That's just how it is. Life's not fair. But that's kind of a fair situation. You didn't do anything for a while. Why would you have the audacity to expect you to be right back to where you were? I think it comes down to more of trusting yourself that you will get back to where you were faster than you think, because our bodies have muscle memory. Our body knows what it's like to go hard if we've done that in the past. So my biggest advice to you, if you're just like, how am I going to get back in the studio? Just go. Just get in the car and go. And when you're having a bad day at work and you don't want to go, guess what? Get in the car, drive over, and go. And you know what? If you show up and you truly give your best, whatever that is, even if it's your crappiest best ever, you're just feeling horrible, you're feeling lonely and sad and just miserable, give your best still, even if it's not that great of a best, you're going to be so happy you showed up, and you're going to remember, oh, this is why I love this so much. And that is going to start you back on the path to getting back after it. So keep that in mind. If you're in a rut and you're trying to get back into things, we're all rooting for you. Guess what? Decades upon decades upon decades. If you're 72 years old right now, you got 10 banging years of exercise to get back to where you want to be. And I know most of you aren't 72. So if you're 30, guess what? That's 50 plus years to get back to where you were. If you're 62 years old, 30 years to get back to where you were. We just got so much time, folks, so much time. And I'm just trying not to blow out the sound on my mic by getting too hyped to talk about it. Just don't get so wrapped up in the short term. Show up. Just do your best and be as consistent as you can, and you will get there. Be smart if you've got injuries. Ease into things slowly. Don't rush things. And that's all I got to say. That's the talk for today's Push Pace podcast. And I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. Thank you so freaking much for all of your support so far. It has been overwhelming, and you guys helped me get to the top 500 of the Apple charts on week 3 when episode 3 came out. I think we got to spot 465 on September 14th for the most listened to podcast that day. So thank you guys so much for your support. It would mean the world to me if you could leave some more reviews and feedback, anything that I can do differently for you, anything you guys want to talk about. Let's make this an amazing experience, because all I want is for you to be happy, and all I want is for us to push on our quest to happiness together. So thank you guys so much for listening. Thanks for all your support, and I will see you guys in the next Push Pace podcast.